Hello there, I'm April Bryan.
And I'm Michael Bryan with Bryan Realty Group.
Today we're going to talk about buying and making sure that you don't pay too much. And also, should everybody be buying a house? And the answer to that is no. And so I think we just want to get into when does it make sense to buy a house versus waiting? Because there are times when waiting really is the right decision, the right answer. We do help people buy and sell homes. So others might be surprised that we say that there is a time when you shouldn't buy. But we really honestly believe there are times when it doesn't make sense to buy a house, right?
Agree to disagree. You should always buy a house. Everybody needs to buy a house right now.
Michael,
So give us a call. We'll help you. That would be
no.
your 2026 goal is everybody in the city of Memphis and surrounding areas to buy a home through Bryan Realty Group. Make it happen. Accept the challenge. No, couldn't agree more. The everybody does not need to own a home. Everybody does not need to buy a home right away. It's a major financial decision, and just like any other financial decision, you need to weigh your options. You need to look at your finances, your goals, where you are in life, and make an educated financial decision for your future. My
Exactly.
2 cents.
And I think it's really important when we're helping buyers, if a buyer comes to us and they get approved, we go looking at houses, and then at some point in time in the process they decide this is not the right time for me to buy. I think that we want to support that decision, and it's really important to help them think through all of the pieces and the considerations to come to that decision effectively. And I think it's really important to not work with somebody that's going to push and say, oh no, you have to buy. But we do want to help them think through, educate them, inform them, and make sure they're making a good decision for the right reasons. And I think that's the biggest key and component to this.
Agree. I think again, you have to look at the total picture. You have to look at your expenses, your income, what your goals are, where you're going to be next year. I mean, if you're getting ready to make a major move to New Orleans or California, then no, we don't need to go look and buy a house. That doesn't make any sense. If there's a possibility that your company's going to relocate you in 2 months, well, you're barely going to be closed on a house, much less anything else moved in. So I think you have to look at the total picture, just like anything else. I think if you were going to want to start depositing money into a retirement account and trading stocks or buying crypto or whatever you want to do, you're not just going to start throwing money at it. You're going to make informed decisions. You're going to do your research. You're going to talk to experts. You're going to find advisors and counsel. And I think it's the same thing with real estate. You find your counselor, you find your advisor, you find the people you trust, and get their advice and help you make the right decision.
Exactly. But I think a lot of people in society, the general public, a lot of times they think that a realtor always wants to sell somebody a house. And I think it's really important that we highlight that that's not our goal. Our goal is to help people make good financial decisions and to give them the pros and the cons and the considerations for each individual house that they might be considering. Let's talk a little bit about affordability. So I know with inflation being extremely high, the cost of goods being extremely high, just going into the grocery store, getting, a loaf of bread, getting milk, getting your daily, your weekly staples, gas, the cost of gas that you put in your car, clothes, just daily, things that you need, your cosmetics, your toothpaste, whatever, things are more expensive. And so affordability, when you're spending money on other things, do you have enough income to pay for the house as well? And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about affordability. And we hear this day in and day out about how much houses are costing with interest rates and the price tag. And, does it make more sense to rent versus to buy?
Well, again, I think it's a decision that you have to make with people that you trust, and get counsel and get advice from people who have more information than you, and you trust, and then make an informed decision. I do think obviously everything costs more. Some prices are coming down, some prices are staying the same. Housing is certainly not coming down.
Yeah,
So I think here's some things that people can't dispute, and this is I just saw this on CNN. So you can't dispute that this last year was a tough year. The last couple of years have been tough with rising cost of everything across the board.
sure.
We are seeing inflation came down last month, which is fantastic. It just got reported. We're also seeing interest rates creep down. All of those things are a good sign for the consumer to be able to potentially have more money. It's the first time in a while that wages have increased and costs have gone down a little bit. So,
It'll take a little while for people to feel that.
correct.
So I think the general perception is affordability is low, prices are still high, interest rates are still high versus the 2, 3, 4% we were seeing during COVID. So I think it's going to take a little bit of time for those things to kind of trickle through the economy and for people to feel a little bit of relief because 2024 and 2025 in general, I think have been hard years for a lot of
They
people.
have, absolutely.
And so a lot of times we hear, oh, must be nice to buy a house. Oh, must be nice to do this or that. And so I think as you think about affordability, I think getting creative with financing, there are some down payment assistance programs. All loans don't require a huge amount of down payment, but I think it's really important. You can't just look at that one component. You need to think about total down payment, closing costs, your monthly mortgage, what you'll pay each month for the house. But also, you've got to think about maintenance. Let's talk a little bit about maintenance because a house isn't just your mortgage payment, which includes your insurance and your principal and your interest. But you also are going to have other things that go into a house. You're going to have rotten wood or leaking gutters or roofing that needs to be addressed or updates, renovations. You're going to have a lot of things that come into play. And so let's talk a little bit about renovations and what people should think about when it comes to buying. And should I buy now versus wait?
I, I I think you covered a lot of it right there. I mean, you're going to have things that break just like buying a car or anything else. You have overall maintenance on a daily, monthly, yearly basis, and then you're going to have things that fail, systems that fail. So, we've talked about this in previous conversations. You have to budget for those things. If you don't, then that's when you get into trouble. So, when you're buying a house and somebody tells you that you're approved for $300,000. Well, that's great, but at $300,000, does your note have you tapped out to where you can't go on a vacation, or you can't replace the tires on your car when they need to be replaced, or replace the water heater when it goes out? You've got to be smart and make good financial decisions and prepare for all of those things in life that come and hit you in the teeth.
Exactly. And I think having a nest egg or an emergency fund, because emergencies come up. The A coil, you need to replace your A coil from an HVAC perspective, or you have a problem with a, you know, leaky toilet or a plumbing leak at the sink or need a new disposal or whatever the case may be. Home ownership does come with maintenance. And so planning for that ahead of time is really important and not being too, um, what's the word for house poor, not being too house poor, so that you have enough money for the maintenance items too.
Agree.
I know some people feel guilt or that they're a failure if they don't own a house. And I want to talk about that for a second because I think it's important for people to realize um, maybe you just don't have a house yet. And I think yet is such a key word. Maybe you're saving for that house and you're planning and you're saving your nest egg or that maintenance fund. And so I don't think that that's necessarily a negative. And we certainly wouldn't say, how dare you not own a house? That's just not the case at all. It might be that you're not ready yet, or you're, to your point earlier, you're in a place temporarily you know your time there is short term, it might not make sense to own a house. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I think that you hit on everything that I would have said, and agree with everything you said for once. So, but I do think it's important for people to plan for the future and do research and find, again, people they trust. Go find a real estate agent. We have plenty to choose from. We would love to help you, but if we're not the right choice, there are lots of great choices in this city that you can trust, that can give you advice, put you in touch with lenders, mortgage brokers, bankers, financial planners. We've got a list of financial people. They're not all lenders that we can certainly send you their direction, and we trust and work with on a daily basis that can sit down with you and help you come up with a plan. If buying a home is what you want to do and you've never bought one before, or you are in a home now and you want to jump to the next level, but you're not quite sure, you're afraid of what that looks like, or you have a goal to be at a certain size house in 10 years. Well, that takes planning. It's just like everything else. If you're going to make any big decisions in life or any big changes or make any goals, you have to come up with what are the steps to get me there in order to be successful. So if your goal is to buy your first house or buy your fifth house and you're needing advice, then I think finding those professionals that help you make the right decisions now and put things in place and budget and plan and pay things off or put money aside, whatever it may be, to help get you to that goal. What's your goal? Buying your fifth house, buying an investment house, buying an apartment building, buying a commercial warehouse, whatever that might be, what's the goal? And then let's help you create the steps and talk to the people that you need to talk to get you to be able to achieve that goal.
Right. So often we get people that call and say, I'm ready to go look at houses. And I think that it's really important to kind of put the brakes on a little bit and say, hold on just a second. We're not trying to slow you down too much and squash that excitement and enthusiasm, but we need to talk through the numbers. What are you pre-approved? Do you know what you can afford? Do you understand what your monthly note's going to be? And a lot of times people think that's questioning, oh, can you afford the house? And that's really not what we're trying to do. We're questioning, are you comfortable with all the numbers and do you know them? For you, your family, whoever might be involved in the buying process. And so it isn't us saying, well, we're not going to go show you houses if you can't afford it. It's saying, are we helping take the right steps for you? Because one of the things that I really struggle with and hate is when we go look at houses and somebody falls in love with the house and then they don't feel comfortable on the financial side. That is gut wrenching to me. So I would much rather them feel comfortable on the front end, knowing the financials, and we go look within the right budget for them and what they're wanting to pay each month, and what they're comfortable with. So looking at houses is not the first step.
No, agree. It's never going to be stress free and it's never going to be easy. But we want to try to make you as comfortable as we possibly can, take as much stress off of you as we possibly can,
Yes.
so that you're comfortable and confident. I'll never forget a story that my grandfather was laying in bed when he and my grandmother first got married. She woke up at 2 a.m. and he was laying in bed staring at the ceiling. They had bought their first house on Charleswood in High Point Terrace. It was a 2 bedroom, 1 bath, and their monthly note was $89.75 a month. And she asked him what was wrong, why he was awake, and he said he didn't know how they were going to afford to pay that every single month. It was the first time they'd ever bought a home, obviously just married. And but I think that happens to a lot of people. They
Agreed.
buy this house and then they're like, "Oh my gosh, how am I going to pay for this every month?" And it an $89 house note had him awake at 2 a.m. And that has always stuck with me, that people are nervous and they're scared and the unknown, and obviously they made it work and bought multiple houses over the years, and but that's why you need people in your court to help you figure those things out.
That is
uh,
such a good point.
so
Such a good point. I think we talk about you don't know what you don't know. Well, and the only way you can find out more is through research, through resources, educating yourself, and making sure that you're talking to the right outlets to help you get informed. And knowing the information will help you feel more comfortable, less stressed, and more confident in your decisions, which is exactly what we want. And I think really getting that reassurance that you as a buyer, you've been thoughtful through the process. We've considered how you live and we found the right home for you to meet those needs, whether it be close to your gym or close to your work or the kids' school or whatever the case may be. And also thoughtful when it comes to the lending side, and you feel comfortable with the mortgage and you feel confident that paying those bills and you won't be awake at night like your grandfather, that you're confident in those decisions based on all the incomes, or not incomes, based on all the inputs that we've pulled together to help you find, and that you just have that reassurance.
Agree. And I'd like to just make one other quick point. That I feel like some people may be intimidated by the process. They're scared because they don't know anything about it. And I don't want anybody to ever feel, especially working with anybody at Bryan Realty Group, that we are going to judge or look down. We are here to educate. We are here to inform. We are here to support. We are here to guide and protect as much as we possibly can. So we do this on a daily basis. I have helped people buy a $5,000 house, and we have been a part of $1 million deals, and everywhere in between.
Multi-million dollar deals.
Multi-million dollar deals, and we everywhere in between. And we do not treat anybody differently if they're looking for a $40,000 property or a $4 million property. We are going to provide the same service. We're going to look out for you. We're going to trust you. We're going to give you our respect, our judgment as far as what we know, not judging you, but judging the home and the property and anything we possibly can to help you get a more or make a more informed decision. That is our job. And so never feel ashamed or embarrassed or scared to call us and talk to us because you haven't done it before. This is what we do. Recently, we've all had medical issues. Well, I've gone to the doctor, didn't know what was going on, didn't know what the problems were, didn't know anything else. But I talked to the doctor, and because he and she were professionals, they were experts, they gave me the advice, they helped us through that. That's what they're there for. Same thing, if I had a legal issue, I would go talk to an attorney because that's their expertise. We are your experts. That's what you're hiring us to be. And so you want to surround yourself with people who you can trust and provide you with the information you need.
Yeah, and that you can confide in.
Yes.
Here's what I'm trying to achieve. How do you help me get there? And I think too often people think that I don't want to disclose all my information. I don't want to tell them all my goals. But if we don't know that information, we can't best serve them.
That's right.
So coming in and being as open as possible, knowing we are not going to judge, we are only here to help and guide and advocate. I think that really is the best partnership, and the best way we can help buyers.
Agree, 100%. Thanks so much for being part of this and watching. Look forward to doing it again. And as always, if there are topics or things that you'd like to hear us talk about or dive into, please feel free to make comments and let us know. We're always looking for more subjects to discuss.
Thank you.